But one of the things I love is every Monday we talk about stories that have driven lots of shopping on the site. And we were talking yesterday about a piece that our brilliant shopping editor had written about the damson madder dress that she relies on in a heat wave. And she had taken pictures of herself in it and she looked great in it. And we sold £45,000 worth of that dress.
Really?
Yeah. And like that is because you see that there is a human in that dress. And AI has helped us get to the point of we know now that Damson Madder is one of those brands that performs really well for our audience.
Yeah.
So we're always going to be looking for that merch. But it's because she has worn it and the audience believe it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Carla Buzasi, CEO of WGSN, and you're listening to Lives of Tomorrow, WGSN podcast about how we will all live our lives in the future. Now, pretty much every single day, there is a brand or business that comes to WGSN and wants to talk about Gen Z, which is absolutely fair enough. This is a generation that are coming into work, having children, getting positions of power, and they've got some money to spend. But it's quite unusual, unfortunately, that brands come and want to talk to us about millennials. So when Hattie, editor-in-chief of Grazia, picked up the phone to me a couple of months ago and wanted to talk about that, I was pretty excited. So together, our two companies have collaborated on what we're calling the Generation Grazia report, which is all about UK millennial women.
So why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
I'm Hattie Brett, editor-in-chief of Grazia, and it's my privilege really to edit a brand that speaks to that millennial woman, someone we think is really important across multiple platforms, print, digital, social, Apple News, all onto where our women is. We want to be telling the right stories for her in the right space. And I have loved working with you guys on this report. I feel we work well together. It was quite speedy, wasn't it? I think it was probably about 6 weeks ago. We said, let's do this.
Let's do this. I think partly because we've got so much research on this cohort, and there are so many brands out there who should be listening to this. I think that was the thing that I kind of knew anyway, but when we spoke to your readers, I mean, it came across really strongly. They feel ignored. Like a high percentage just feel that brands, we focus a lot on fashion and beauty, but really brands across all consumer industries aren't marketing to them and aren't creating products for the women that they are today. They're still thinking of them as their kind of 25-year-old self. So there were lots of trends that came out. We focused in on 5. Let's start with the wealth paradox. So this is all about the fact that lots of these women earn decent salaries. I think a large percentage are in households that have over £75,000 coming in every single year. So that's more money than their mothers and their grandparents ever dreamt of. But they don't feel rich at the moment, and that's having a big impact on how they shop, where they shop. But they also love good quality, they like luxury. Can you tell me a little bit about how you see that manifesting?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it, that phantom paradox. Our woman, we always talk about the fact she's relatively well protected practically from the cost of living, but of course that conversation is all around and she is influenced by that and she's become much more mindful with her consumption. But I think the fallacy here is to say that she's not shopping, because she is. She is, and she told us that in the research, didn't she? And we see that day in, day out on our digital and social, where now we can track her spending, and £3 million worth of fashion and beauty sales on the site last year. We see her spending, and we see our fashion issues in print where we have a model on the cover. We still do 7 of them in the year, versus our competitors who really moved away from that. Actually, those are still some of our best performing issues. So she still wants fashion, she's still shopping, but she is more mindful about the way she's doing that. I think definitely the luxury purchases are key accessories, bags, shoes, coats. She's upped her spending in watches and jewelry, which I think is really interesting, but actually kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you're spending
those
the same
investment pieces, right? They're going to last, and you kind of know with those pieces they're going to have longevity.
And also you can see them. That was one of the things we found really interesting, that she will buy herself bracelets and rings because she's looking at them. And if it's the same price as the designer bag, why would you not invest in that?
Now, part of that increase in spend, they told us, was on wellness and beauty. Those are the two categories of the biggest increase. Now, wellness is a topic that we obsess over at WGSN, as do our clients. The impact of that, I mean, the kind of trajectory of that industry is only going upwards. But there has been a sort of a change within that. 2 years ago, we started forecasting at soft wellness, which was really, and again, very female focused. Women saying, I kind of find this exhausting. Like, I've got the information, I understand that I should be doing better for myself. I've got options as to whether it's supplements, exercise, etc., etc. But it felt like hard slog, like it was another thing that they could be judged at. And so we've seen this kind of softening of it. And again, a much more considered approach to that. Is that something that you're seeing with the readers as well?
Do you know what? I think the pandemic changed everything for brands and for beauty particularly. And I think it was the first time that the world woke up to something I think women have always known, which is that beauty is more than just the products you have on the shelf. You remember, all of us remember, don't we, the outpouring of emotion of your hair, like not being able to go to the hairdressers and that first appointment, and that sense that actually beauty is about feeling good, and if you look good, that's almost the byproduct of it. And we've definitely seen that amongst our audience, that spend on beauty has increased. They now spend double the national average. 68% say they bought something based on a Grazia recommendation, but they are also so literate about beauty now. And we did some focus groups recently, and the way they talked about the advocacy of skincare, they love them. Beauty brands, they can list them all, they understand what the ingredients are. They were much more open about tweakments and treatments than they ever have been before. They were like, let's talk about tech as well as talking about lotions and potions. It was that holistic look at beauty, not just a great product.
It's not just about a lipstick or a foundation. And if it is about foundation, again, this is what came out in the survey results. They'll be thinking about how is that sort of amped up, so it's the skin fur within those formulations. It's quite interesting again because it's the sort of scientific knowledge that we have hoovered up because we again want to invest in ourselves in a way that's going to kind of make us feel good but look good as well. Everything's got to do that.
And I think it's also about, for us, it's been, okay, how do we take that community and super serve them? And so we've done some interesting brand extensions within beauty, the Grazia VIP Beauty Club, where we have 1,000 members who come to events and who have additional newsletters, and our Grazia Beauty standalone magazine, which is on shelves for 2 months rather than our average frequency of fortnightly. And I think that's because they want the long reads, they want the practical advice, they want something that feels like it's going to hang around and help them in that beauty world. It's such an exciting space.
It is a really exciting space. You've got so many new brands coming, and then you've got older brands that we've grown up with. The investment that they're putting into their product formulations now.
Yeah.
I mean, my favourite thing to do, I go back at the flat by myself, is go to Superdrug. First, I did it again last night, and I spent ages looking along at all the, and that's the L'Oreals and the Rimmels of this world. I was buying Rimmel mascara last night because I run out. But then you've also got all of those kind of, new starter brands that come in. The packaging is beautiful.
I know. I'm obsessed with that too. I love that. I think I've really gone back to some of those heritage brands like the Clarins Double Wear because they reformulated it, which is clever, but it feels trusted. But I'm also obsessed with the new Laura Jackson brand. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, Rocco. It's like, beauty that's designed to make you feel good. And the campaign that they've launched on social, A, feels really social, which is important, right?
Yeah.
And B, just the visuals are so joyful and so infectious that you want to be part of it.
Well, that is a very nice segue with the word joyful into joy economy. So if anyone has listened to this podcast, they will have heard me talk about glimmers in the past because I've been obsessed with glimmers for years and years now. And this is, for anyone who doesn't know, all about this kind of micro moments of joy. What is different, and I think the move that we're seeing with millennial women, is actually they want bigger celebrations than that. And if those aren't being delivered to them, they will go out and find them. So again, talking about spending, a lot of the increase of spending is around holidays, it's festivals, it's concerts, it's going out, because they want to enjoy their lives. We're not living in a particularly joyful world at the moment. So again, it's on them to find that. That felt, that was it was a really lovely, Carla, into this report to see that they're investing in themselves, as we discussed, but they want connection and they want community.
For sure. And I think as a result, their spending cadence and seasonality has changed. And, when you and I, we should probably confess, we have worked together many moons ago, right? When we first started out in this world, it was very much you do the kids special in October
Yes.
and you do Christmas gifting in November. And now it's much more, okay, they're buying concert tickets for Harry Styles, and then they want the outfit to go with it, and they want to know where to eat around it. So I think the best brands are people that understand that different behavior and can kind of turn that experience into a whole holistic event.
Right, okay, we've got a little quick fire question section now to try and get to
Okay.
know you a little bit better. So don't think too hard about these.
Okay.
Do you prefer recommendations from secret Instagram pages or word of mouth?
Definitely word of mouth. I mean, I just think there's nothing more annoying than going to like the Instagram friendly place and everyone's taking pictures and no one's having any fun. Not my vibe.
When was the last time you felt genuinely challenged professionally?
I mean, gosh, I feel like I feel challenged every day because the media and women's habits are changing so fast. But I think if you're talking, dig deep resilience, it was COVID. Does everyone say? I really remember sending the team home and thinking, I don't even know if we can put an issue to press remotely, let alone like, what are we going to do on the cover? At the time, we were doing paparazzi shots of celebrities, and A, they didn't exist, and B, that felt totally wrong. Yeah, wrong. And I did something I hardly ever do, and I emailed the team on Sunday night and said, we go to press on Thursday, can we try and find some NHS workers that we can photograph in socially distanced in the car parks of their hospitals? And I'll never forget getting those covers through from my creative director. I was taking some fish fingers out of the oven for my 2-year-old at the time, and they had the message from the front line. And they, even now, it makes me feel really emotional actually thinking about how we were able to respond to that redefinition of who heroes were for our audience. And it was kind of amazing creatively. You had a freedom, but it was also, really stressful. We were pivoting content. We were growing social because that's where our audience were. And, we were trying to make sure that the team stayed safe and sane.
And what's the song you currently got on repeat?
Oh, do you know what? I don't know if to be ashamed about this, but I went to see Alanis Morissette at the weekend. And so it's probably that Jagged Little Pill album, which I was really having kind of nostalgia flashbacks to being a sort of 15-year-old teenager in my angsty period and discovering the way that music can really make you feel something. It was really fun.
Okay, now what's the book you're recommending?
The book I recommend to everybody is actually an old one, but it's called Covenant of Water. It's a very good holiday read. I mean, it's thick, not going to lie, but it's like multi-generational, sweeping story set in India, which is a place I really love. And it's a perfect holiday read.
What was the last thing you ticked off your bucket list?
Bucket list. Can I say a future thing? Is that cheating? I am taking my daughter to Paris, just the two of us. This is the first solo trip we've done to celebrate her finishing primary school. And I can't wait. I'm so excited because it's a place I go for Fashion Week, and I'm always, in the back of a car like this on my phone, not appreciating the city at all. So if I can drag her out of Jellycat, which is all she wants to do, it's going to be
amazing. Great. Okay, right, we'll get back into it. Now, you did mention the word AI earlier, and we can't forecast anything WGSN without AI or have a podcast without talking about it. I thought what was very interesting in the year, we talk about the human premium quite a lot. That came across very strongly. You were mentioning when we were talking about Chanel earlier. How important is that to your readers, the human premium, and how important is it to you as magazine editor?
It's so important. I mean, I'm amazed we've got to this point in the podcast without talking about AI. And I've just been in Cannes at Cannes Lion last week, and one of the things I found really refreshing about the conversation there was AI is great. We shouldn't be afraid of it. We should be embracing it in the right way because it can get us really quickly from A to B, and it can help take away some of the data analysis and the laborious work that I think we really need to do to free up the headspace for creativity. And I don't say this enough actually, that, to be creative, you need your brain to be, sometimes you need to rest, you need to observe, you need to have space and time and the luxury in the world that we live in today when, everyone's got six different jobs that they that they should be doing. So I'm a big believer in, we don't use AI to create content at Grazia, but we use it to help us be more efficient in the content that we're creating and to get us from A to B quickly. And then I think when when everybody can use AI in the same way, what are you adding? What's your advantage? And for me, it's emotion and it's sharing every story with emotion because that it makes someone feel something and they'll share it on social or they'll share it in real life because they feel it speaks to them.
It's been really interesting, the rise, if you look at social engagement. Oh, excuse me. If you look at social engagement,
The unfiltered, the grittier images and carousels and reels.
so much better now than the perfectly polished one, because again, it's we can do our own filter on that, and it isn't necessarily images or AI. The ones that are being scanned through, it just looks too good. There's too much of that now. We want the reality, which comes in with the human premium angle. Your readers are saying they'll pay more for something that's been handcrafted, that they know a human's designed. We're seeing that actually across multiple different age groups at the moment. And that's probably, if you're working in the creative industry, that's a good thing to hear at the moment.
Sure. And I mean, I loved the reaction to the Bottega campaign last year. I thought that was so clever to show the hands of the people that weave those bags. I think the more that we can emphasize that there are humans, the better for our audience. And we see that, in multiple ways at Grazia. But one of the things I love is every Monday we talk about stories that have driven lots of shopping on the site. And we were talking yesterday about a piece that our brilliant shopping editor had written about the damson madder dress that she relies on in a heat wave. And she had taken pictures of herself in it and she looked great in it. And we sold £45,000 worth of that dress.
Really?
Yeah. And that is because you see that there is a human in that dress. And AI has helped us get to the point of we know now that Damson Madder is one of those brands that performs really well for our audience. Yeah. So we're always going to be looking for that merch. But it's because she has worn it and the audience believe it when she says it.
So all the trends that are in the Generation Grazia report and all the reader responses, was there anything in there that surprised you in a good or bad way?
I mean, lots of it surprised me. But I think the one that stood out for me was that 39% of people will walk away from a brand that doesn't fit with their values or their ethics. I think we talk about mindful consumption, and we talked about it earlier in a very binary way in terms of spending, but actually this audience isn't just thinking about what they're spending, but who they're spending with. And I think, we talk a lot about fashion and beauty at Grazia because that's number one. And number two reason why they come to us. And I suppose we're here to talk about that. But for me, one of the joys of Editing Grazia has been that we also campaign and we make sure that we are standing up for the woman outside of the printed page on maternal mental health or on the gender pension gap or on cyberflashing. And I think it's really important. The reason we do that is because we want to show our audience that, yeah, we can influence her to shop, but we can only do that because she trusts us, that we have her best interests at heart.
Yeah, it was quite, though we recorded a podcast a few weeks ago on sustainability because I think a lot of consumers talk the talk but don't walk the walk. And
we had an amazing professor who came on who's done lots of really in-depth studies on that and validated that hypothesis. I think what was interesting was that your readers put data behind the number of brands that they've stopped buying from because there's this mismatch when it comes to values. And then when asked which brands do resonate, there were very successful brands, but ones that probably don't necessarily it wasn't just the Patagonias of this world.
but ones who are doing good things, but that isn't their be all and end all. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like we're selling products to you, but also working very hard in the background to make sure we're doing it in a responsible way, which I really liked. Now, actually, something we haven't talked about is the kind of mother angle to all of this, because they spoke very clearly about the fact. I think they gave most brands 5 out of 10
when it comes to marketing to them as mothers. And I think that comes back to what we said at the start of this conversation, which is lots of brands are still thinking about millennial women as their 25-year-old self. And they're not. They're in their 40s now. And motherhood is part of that, but it's not all of that. How do you think about mothers when you're putting the magazine together? Because you'll have lots of people that aren't mothers who are reading it, but wanting to make sure they feel similarly in that role, as well as all the other hats that they have on.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the reasons that we started the Juggle, which was our parenting community, because we saw huge spikes in traffic around parenting content that spoke to them. And our rationale for that, and what I still strongly believe, is that a woman, a millennial woman, any woman, doesn't become a different person when they become a mother. They don't have a style lobotomy or do a 180, but suddenly they do care about things that maybe they didn't care about before, and they have different needs. So the examples that we always use is like affordable childcare, which has become a huge campaign for us. That's a topic that until you're a parent, I don't think you particularly care about in the same way that parents do. And we've all been there. You're pushing a buggy in the rain for the first time, and you try and put on an umbrella, and you realize you can't do that. So you need a raincoat with a stylish hood. So I think parenting and brands that want to speak to parents need to understand them. I mean, it's the same thing as every brand, right? You need to obsess about your audience. You need to know what keeps her awake at night, what's on her shopping list, and reach her in a way that feels honest, emotional, humorous, and real. I mean, I sort of hate that word real, because like, what does real mean in the world that we're in? But I do think that sense of kind of reflecting yourself back, to come full circle to the Chanel moment, is all even more important for parents.
So
you've got big change coming up. So normally I finish this podcast saying, are you more anxious or hopeful about the future? But a couple of weeks ago, you announced on Instagram that you're leaving Grazia. What are you hopeful and anxious about when it comes to your future right now?
You know what? It's been a really bittersweet decision. That's been 8 years. And bittersweet is the word I keep coming back to, because I hope you can tell from the conversation we've had, editing Grazia, leading Grazia has been the privilege of my life, and it's a brand I love, and it's a job I love day to day. And I love it because we get to talk about women and audiences. And as you have helped us with this research, we get to dig really deep, and we get to kind of understand her. But I've been doing it 8 years. And I think for me, as a woman who has been doing it 8 years, it's time for me to do something different and to take those skills. I don't think those skills, understanding women, building communities, connecting storytelling that engages with them. I'm actually really excited about seeing where those skills can take me in terms of brands, in working with founders, in consultancy and writing. But I'm also giving myself a bit of headspace. And I'm going to spend a year, like a project, Carla. I'm going to spend a year working out the answer, I think, to this question that I keep asking myself, which is, what does ambition look like to millennial women today? Because I'm leaving a job I love, because I think my definition of ambition has changed, and I don't have the answers about what's next, but I want to spend a year speaking to career psychologists, founders, economists, working out some of the answers to those questions about what ambitious women want now. Because I don't think I'm the only one that's sort of sitting here thinking, okay, well, now. And like you often said, turn light into coffee.
Thank you so much. It's been really, really lovely talking to you. Good luck in the future. Thank you. Maybe back here in the year talking about what ambition looks like. Thank you. Thank you all for listening as well. I hope you've enjoyed today's podcast. I'll be back in 14 days' time. And in the meantime, if you're missing out, you can tune into my colleague Sari Napoli's podcast, Create Tomorrow. I'm Carla Buzasi. I'm CEO of WGSN, and I'll see you next time.